when it comes to photography or anything you want to learn, basically, is either you make it a one day thing, like, oh, one day I'll do it, or a day one thing. First, I did not have a proper education along the way. That was funny. So all I did was I gather what I have, which is the education through architecture and the practice of it, and transpose into, photography. Because all of it, I feel like photography is like all of us have an eye, right?
Mm-hmm.
And photography is about how you see things. And then you want to learn. Yes, you do want to learn, but then you don't have the source of it. Everybody will come like, I don't have the source of it. I don't have the time of it. But eventually, this is the quote I came. It becomes a mantra through last year. It's either going to be one day or day one. One day it will be like, you know what, one day lah.
I love that.
Or day one, be like, okay, today is it. Yeah, let's do this. Yeah. And even when it comes to learning and adapting a new skill, not just photography or anything, videography, or even like kneading, the recipe is there, as in like tutorials, those are the recipe. Now with a click of a button, everything is there. Like recipe in terms of like, let's say souffle. Everybody can given the secret sauce, the secret recipe, and at the end of the day, it's up to you to whether you want to put like, oh, I want souffle, I want to make it like a chocolate souffle, so I add my own flavor in it. Then you have the right timing and stuff. But at the end, not everybody's souffle is gonna rise, if you know what I mean.
Of course.
So what I'm showing you guys now is obviously how I incorporate architectures and photography throughout. And sooner or later, adding in live elements as well. And this is obviously understanding like vernacular architecture and modern architecture, their technology, how is it built, how is it formed. I think angle, it's not so much about angles that I want to show, it's more about the time period of architecture that I want to show, meaning that it could be it's heritage and modern. So it's about knowing that, what kind of material they used back in the days, the vernacular architecture. Like obviously the heritage one back in it was shot in Japan, so obviously they use bamboo. So we have to understand about timeline as well. So what I'm trying to show is actually the difference of it to your understanding, if you know what I mean. So yeah, this is basically how architecture transcends into photography and how it plays a role to my journey. So from learning all that, I think that's more of like the core fundamental value I had. So I feel like it's not a lot, but I think like, okay, that's the portion I have to further what I really think that it could be something else in terms of exploring photography. So from that, I
love this.
Yeah. So I would say that every time I look at this photo, this was actually taken last year during Raya. This was taken last year, and then while I was stringing for Associated Press, which is a international wire agency, and it became the world best photo for 24 hours. It's 24 hours, but it's okay.
Wow. So, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, it became, yeah. So I think ABC News pick it up, USA Today pick it up. So, I think holistically, what is this about? Up till last year, when I look at this photo, it's more of giving me a sense of how far I've come as an individual who went through architecture as a major, and then as a photographer in the current time. So what I see is obviously like the reflection of it, symmetrical, is it? Axis, yeah, lights, shadow, coming from a silhouette. So yes, so that was architecture for coming, the journey of it. So for now, as we are moving on to photographing, and I think the part of the architecture really like centers to, like I say, the core value of it, like the basics, the skills. And when it comes to photography, there's always like a skill set, mechanism and technicality skill set, as well as the artistry. So the artistry one is obviously very hard to a certain extent, in terms of like, it shows how you communicate to people and your understanding as well. When it comes to photography, it's really about communication and a mutual respect as well. Like because as photography, all of us are visual artists here, basically, I would say, like for interior designer, architecture designer. And I would think that photography is a tool to help me to paint the picture. So for me, how I start off, especially when it comes to photographing people, because photographing dead object is really easy. Photographing landscape, photographing architecture, like I won't say it's like really super easy, but in terms of comfort zone, because this one, obviously photographing people, you have to talk to people. You have to make sure, are they okay the way they photograph? And when you photograph people, you have to find a way to do them justice, meaning to tell their stories, as opposed to like you photographing a facade of a building. It's like snap, then on your way.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to photographing people, I think the best way is to photograph true families. That's why this quote from Annice, which is one of my really well respected photographer, is that it says that start with your friends and family, the people who will put up with you, and discover what it means to be close to your work and to be intimate with your subject. So obviously, I start off with the people who will put up with me is my family. Yeah. So these are my baby sisters, who I get to had the privilege to photograph their childhood. So when you photograph them, obviously the best thing is to photograph your family or your nieces or your nephew, because they run around, and that really tests your patience. However, sometimes one thing I love about photographing children's or moving fast objects is it will never be repeat twice. Photographing people. So this is my brother and my sister, and as you photograph them, you have some sort of like that's the communication right there. And I did not post them at all. It's more of so that I'm holding my camera and I'm talking to them. Mm-hmm. And that's where the moment it was freezed. And sooner or later, it involves with work. I really wanted to hopefully to get this going, to be a working photographer, be a professional photographer one day. So I decided to get into photo documentary, to like really tell the people's story. So this is my dad and his social development work. So in the newspaper, he say like, 我是儿子，也是爸爸. So a little bit context of that is because that his work is really centralized on old folks and children home. That's why the newspaper say that he's a son to the neglected old folks, and as well as a father to the orphans.
Would you want to share more like what he does here and how that actually affected your journey?
Sure. So I think I will share it to you through here. So basically, sooner or later, after that, I worked with him on some social development projects. And growing up, he's been doing this since I think before I was born. So growing up, I would go with him. I'll go with him with the trip in the old folks home. So he's a director of an organization for old folks and children home. So when I was young, I'll go there and he would ask me to take all the old folks and children's, like all their headshots. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, to be really not taboo, but to be frank, that the reason why he asked me to take the old folks is really for 车头香. Really. But in a way, yeah, but every time I photograph, I would show to the old folks, and some of the old folks actually really love it, because, sometimes there are people that are really realistic. They know that, they're going to pass away anytime. But because you have to know that these old folks, they end up in the old folks home, they are neglected old folks. Mm-hmm. So showing them the portrait I've taken, for me, it's just like, I'm just going to help you take a passport shot. But for them, some of them actually told me that, okay, this is a nice shot. So maybe, when I pass away, at least I got, something that really, a really symbolic thing that they can be proud of, or I don't know.
It's sort of a moment of representation of who they are during that present moment. I think it's...
Yeah, they do feel that after that. Yeah, like what you say, representation. So they feel like there's something that honors them in a way. when they pass away. So even though if it's like a 贴头香, like, you know, portrait for the death that you put in front of the bed, for the casket vehicle, so they will still feel honored in some ways. So that's where it gives me a light bulb and a sort of aha moment that, you know, there's more to this. So for children, I will photograph them because I will photograph one by one. So we will put it on the wall as like for sponsors. So let's say any organization, they want to do their social work, corporate social work. So they will go there, like they will like kind of like, oh, adopt a kid, or adopt a kid for a Christmas. So they will pick the picture or take the picture down, and then see what the kids wish list. Like let's say the kids really wants a pair of sports shoe this Christmas. Yeah. So I feel like that's where I know photos can be worked that way. You know, photo is not just photo. It could either help people, it could bind two souls together in terms of like the people who want to sponsor that kid, so that kid gets something, and whoever buy that kid can be the blessing to that child. Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Yeah. So that's how things that I obtain from architecture, you know, from designs and research, you know, and I'm sure that you guys learn in architecture that you guys learn about writing as well. So leading up to it,
yeah,
designs, and this is really like site visit, so where photography applies as well. Yeah.
So those are the stuff that you actually did, like you designed these buildings.
Yeah,
as well?
just a rough design. Then play with perspective along the way. Yeah. Or like speaking just now, yeah, this one should be the slide just now. Yeah, photographing old folks. So because of the work, like the previous slide, all the slides, that I have the opportunity to work with this organization that my dad built. And then slowly, you know, it's not about just, you know, show up at work. So for me, during lunchtime, I will talk with the old folks. I'll use my camera as a tool of communication. So basically, these photos could actually be attached to the plans we have, or the future plans we have to build a better facility for the old folks home. Yeah. So I think further after that, I began to find my own company, which is Antopia, for designs and for photography. And these are the credentials so far I did over the course of, I think, late 2017 to now.
Right. Something I missed out was that Annice is also a skater. That's why she takes a lot of photo of figure skaters, especially in Olympics.
All right.
So when was your last time skating?
When was competitively? It was when I was 17. Yeah.
Right.
17. Yeah, my last competition was when I was 17, around April, because I think by mid-year you just have to stop because of SPM. Yeah. Now that's the rule. Yeah. Now we'll get a little bit on that on photographing figure skating, but yeah. So yeah, it's because of working with these old folks, I feel like there's so much more I can do. So that's where Antopia was founded. And what we did in Antopia is we specialize in sports, humanitarian, and visual arts. And one thing about photography is like I really stood by what this guy who is Platon Antonio. If you guys watch like Netflix Abstract, I'm sure you guys are familiar with him. I think it's episode 7. So Platon Antonio, he's a photographer for Times Magazine. He photographed Putin.
Mm-hmm.
And I like what he said is that I never think about a shoot before I do it, because there's no formula of people. And I want to strip everything away rather than go in with a preconceived notion. Because if I do that, I might miss a gem or jewel that the person is offering me. So this is also where I learned while photographing and spending time with the old folks in the in Rumah Cherries, the organization, because really, I feel like when it comes to photography, everybody will come in like, I want to shoot you like that. I want to shoot you like that. Post this model, post that like. But what if we kind of like challenge the norm in terms of like, you know what, I really want to know how you are as a person.
Mm-hmm.
How you are as a person. That because, let's say how many of you actually went to a wedding that you see, I mean, in no offense, but how do you guys actually went to a wedding that you see all the couples on the big screen and you just go there, makan and just go home? Like, especially your relatives.
Feel staged.
And you know nothing about them. Yeah. That's kind of like a pivotal moment that I know.
Mm-hmm.
So from Entopia, obviously, from Entopia, I started with, upon that, I started with photographing families and then people close to me and then relatives, step by step, how can you build from there? So from families, friends, then obviously there's a lot of like recommendation coming in from friends of friends. And when it comes to photographing families and these people, you have to know that it's you as a photographer, you want to celebrate these people. Because for me, I do not think that it's just a photo. I would think that for, let's say, this girl is Vivian. She is based in US, and when she comes to Malaysia, they instantly their grandparents is based in Malaysia. They were like, oh, I really want to photograph, have a photo shoot to commemorate like her times here, because once she's back in US, you will never know when's the last time I'm gonna see my grandchild again. Some sort like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this is where this family, where half of the family from the States are coming for a visit, they decided to have a photo shoot here. Because even though when it comes to when times tend to separate you, that some of you were based in another country, another state, but you always have something to fall back and look to. So for photographers, so I strongly believe that photograph tells a story. So for this, it may seem like it's a uncle who is in a chirpy mood. So for me, that time to start off with, every time you have this like kind of ice breaking thing,
Mm-hmm.
that the first 15 minutes is kind of like a torture of when you meet someone. So for me, it's that time that the family is getting ready, like the daughter, half of the family member haven't arrived on the shoot yet. And then he is ready. He is like super ready. So he's like, then I was like, oh, uncle, can I just photograph you? Then he's like, oh no, call me David. I was like, okay, David. All right. At the time, it's like when you were photographing, then you have this like awkward moment. So for me, I felt like in person, and like what I say, coming as a designer, we are trained to be observant. We observe people. So I felt like this guy is really proud of his suit. So David here is really proud of his suit. So I asked about his suit. I was like, did you buy this? Did you tailor this to really come here to get photographed? And the funny thing is, you will never know what kind of question you ask and what kind of answer you get. So he's like, oh no, it's actually my wedding suit for 35
how
for
nice.
35 years.
How
For
sweet.
35 years. Yeah. For 35 years. Yeah, and they've been so that's how you know that, oh, this suit actually means a lot to him, the suit and the pants. Yeah, and then not just the suit and the pants, you know that he and his wife has been married for 35 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So much story that unfolds, like just
Yeah.
with one question.
Yep, just one question. And also, I think photograph tells has a way of communicate in terms of like when you paste, when you kind of like puzzle two together or three together, like I did this in a way that from the left is like she's actually looking at her success kind of thing, like she did it after so long. Yeah. So again, like I say, for some people they may think that it's just a family shoot, it's just a graduation shoot, but it's more of that, like you're actually photographing someone's a chapter of someone's in life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then sometimes you could get creative as well. So for me, I get creative with my sisters.
Poor sisters.
Yeah. Yeah, these are the balloons I got for Valentine's Day, I think, few years back. So for me, it's like, obviously, in my opinion, I would think that things that are foil and latex are a little bit. I mean, the money that went and buy it, it's a little bit wasteful. So in a way that, after a few
You
after
heard
a
that,
few
guys?
days, after a few days it's gonna be gone. So I think that's where photograph can really free immortalize the moment as well. And one thing I love about photography is like you always get the best seat in the house in terms of witnessing. You're
That's
always front,
true.
yeah, you're always front and center, and get to witness, people's most happiest moment and even most saddest moment in times. Yeah, and it's all allowed to amplify and tell people's story as well. And for this is Marianne Lau. Her name is Marianne Lau. So for her is, I think, yeah, this one I would like to highlight is where on this very day I was assigned to just photograph her because she was sharing her story. And that really taught me in a humanity manner that sometimes no matter what on that day your role is as a photographer, but it's always good to keep in mind that you're a decent human being first before you're a photographer. Meaning meaning when someone was conducting an interview, I was listening to a story. So she wasn't blind when she was married. So the husband actually really stuck through her. So I think 2 years into their marriage, she began having blurred visions, and then it resolved her blindness. But the husband stuck to her, and throughout her interview, I actually don't just look at her. I look at her husband, and her husband just really listens to her. So I actually, while photographing, after photographing whatever I need to and whatever I was assigned to, I don't know why, something prompted me to ask her, have you guys actually took pre-wedding shots or not? Have you guys actually took pre-wedding shots before? And she said no. And right there and then I decided to give them a 15-minute shoot. That why I do that, because it compels me to do so. I'm not sure why, but I just felt like I need to do it at
Hmm.
that point of time. Yeah. So from there on, I started photographing weddings to documenting loves of two souls binding together. And yeah, like what I said previously, as photographer or visual storyteller and artist, we are there to really document someone's life, no matter the worst times or the happiest times as well. Yeah. So it's because of that I further down to humanitarian, because I felt like, photographing family and weddings, to be incredibly frank with you guys, that wedding is quite a lucrative job. And then you always photograph people when they are happy. And I
Hmm.
wanted to explore the aspect of uh, humanitarian, our humanity as well, and the people who you don't usually see, or because they're not visible, because you don't see them on news, you don't see them being documented. And when I say being documented, meaning that, sometimes news, they whatever photos that comes in news, it's not that some photo they just pick. It's really in a way that, when visual attached with an article, is a way of informing people as well.
Hmm.
So when it comes to humanitarian work, I begin to, follow organizations, or even partnering with organizations to go to start off locally. You see all these photos like Yemen, Syrian, like they are really impactful, but little did we know that we always see things outside the country. The grass is always greener on the other side. Things are more legit on the other side. But I would think that the grass is also green on your side if you take time to flourish by watering it. So I took the time to really explore it. This is in Gere Ipoh. It's in the Orang Asli village, and this is Manila. So I made a point that as well. a practice of every time if I go to a country of assignment, I will actually take a day or two of an extension to really get to know the community and to gel with the local, to bring me to places that I really want to experience. How is it like locally?
That's true. There's so much that we haven't explored as locals, even in Malaysia, right?
Yeah, yeah. So these are the children, the Orang Asli children in Gerik Perak, where they stay there. And that time we were there on a project to install alarms, for the villagers, because in the midnight there's wild elephant like stomping through their plantation.
Mm-hmm.
So they were living in a shed. Like it was really going through. When you reach the area, it's really like Zaman Dahulu a little bit. Like their houses, they are living in a shed, so there's no walls. So the reason why being is that when the elephant comes in the midnight, they are able to run and escape.
Mm.
So, and the children there are like, they don't need much. All they need is like maybe tires hung on the trees, or just running around, playing pebbles. And then sooner or later, when it comes to humanitarian, I began to have the opportunities to photograph politicians as well. And after that, I do realize that, photography and the camera itself is such a powerful tool. That being said, that it doesn't matter who your subject is, rather, even if it's a really powerful politician who has a voice and who has an impact to the society, or you have someone who's like this Nanette right here,
Mm-hmm.
that probably sadly I myself also don't know what's her name. So guilty as charged. I don't know her name, but that's the beauty of photography, that you are able to visual document and display the existence and the visibility of someone who lives in a village and someone who's very influential at the same time. Yeah. And sometimes and one thing about photography I like is like you can really capture their personality, so you can have a glimpse of their personality as well. Yeah. So for me, of all the pictures I've taken of Tun, this is that one photo. It might not be my favorite, but when I look at this photo, it tells me like, yep, that's our Tun right there. He's a little bit cheeky. Yeah. So when it comes to photography also, there's a thing called certification that I would like to share. That certification meaning that to give them a certain identity. So for this portrait, it may be just just be a girl in a tudung, but what you didn't know that she's the first wrestler hijab woman in the world. So that's why there's poster behind it. So you are looking beyond that. Yeah.
Right.
That's why photography allows you to tell the story. And recently she has been named Forbes 30 under 30.
Nice. So this was taken during the practice for SEA Games?
This was just taken during her practice, where other publishing house, they really want to know about her story.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, when I reached there, obviously a lot of people just start like have this prerequisite of you reach there, you do your job, and you pack up and you go home.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, obviously normally I like to go 30 minutes earlier. When she's prepping, I would like to talk to her, because I don't want to be someone that I just show up and take a photo. It's something like I show up, I take a photo, take a piece of you, wrap up, then ciao. So as I was talking to her that day, she wasn't that friendly because she was having her period, and then she still had to go through training. I have no idea. When the guy just slammed her, I was like, how on earth?
Oh, that's a guy?
Oh, that's a guy. So
right.
she was wrestling a guy, and she was telling me that, ever since the first published, she got recognized and the first article went out, she got a lot of backlash from her community, because obviously as a Malay girl, you're not supposed to have like such a extent of physical touch with a guy, and more so you are a wrestler. Yeah. So there's a representation right there. And so as this is I was fortunate enough to photograph two ladies that both of them made it to the 30 under 30 in Forbes. So this is Anya Chong. She's also what she did was quite the challenge of norm, that she's a short track speed skater, and obviously short track speed skating or figure skating is not an easy thing to pursue in Malaysia, especially a tropical country. And that's where you realize, I think at this point I realized that as a photographer or as a visual storyteller, you connect with your subject in a way that you guys live in parallel lives. So wherever your subject is, and that's where you are, you grow together. So if, let's say, I have a long-term project photographing a skater or photographing a subject or a skater that he started from national, so I follow him through national, and he went for SEA Games. That's where I went through SEA Games as well. And then he went for 4 continents, worlds, and there I was. And then eventually Olympics. So it's like, as your subject goes, you move forward as well. And one thing about photography that really resonates with me is that, you know, not every day you get to photograph people's most glorious moment, and at the same time you get to photograph people's most lowest moment. And for this assignment is where I was assigned to a family of 3. His name is Kevin, and he suffered from Tourette syndrome, and his parents apparently the entire family has a kind of like a hoard. They practice like hoarding and stuff, so they hoard everything at their house. So this is their house, and this is where he sleeps at. And a guy with a Tourette syndrome, I really try to portray like, how can I tell people that he has a Tourette syndrome? So when it comes to learning design, I begin to explore other possibility, other media. So yeah, this is where he fatwa lah. Then after this shot, he actually come right at me, but luckily there's people there. So yeah, yeah. So I want to be able to photograph something that really tells, so that eventually these photos can help either raise awareness or either help this family to raise funds to have a more sustainable life. And then when it comes to photography, like I said, photography really allows to bring you anywhere. And for this is my baby sister first day of school. This is not her, but as I was, when it comes to my baby sister or any of your family members first day of school, you would like to document it. And sometimes the thing is, the unexpected things happen. So for me, this was actually at the right corner of my eye. As where I bid my sister's farewell, I was like, oh, Tete gotta go already. Then I saw this girl. at the corner of my right eye. She was looking at a window. And then at first glance, it's like, oh, what is this shot about? So if you guys can see here, this is the mother's hand. So obviously she is looking up to the mother. And it also gives you a message of like, you know what? Mommy's going to come back later and everything's going to be okay on your first day of school. And one thing photography also teaches about lights and shadow. So, finding where the light comes from. Really try to, sometimes I would like to challenge the norm by trying to really think out of the box a bit, or really try to merge things like generation gaps. So from this generation gaps, it's like you have seen this quite a while when it comes to portrait photography, but this as well. So knowing we are observer in life. So this was taken during Pyeongchang, where all the actions is actually happening right in front of you. But sometimes it won't hurt to actually 回头望望一下 and
Look
see
back.
what,
Right.
yeah, look back and see what's going on behind. And this is the shot that it really made my day that day, that I realized that, oh, you know, we are really, with social media nowadays, this is how we actually look. And you have an old lady really soak in the moments. There's no right or wrong of this, really.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's right or wrong of this, but it's just different generation, and it really tells you different thing. That an old lady and a more senior lady is really soaking in the moment, and a younger one, she's trying to capture a memory through her phone. Yeah. So everybody okay there? Everybody seems so quiet.
All good.
Okay. I can see May. I can see May is doing okay. So, as you know, after telling stories, we all start off with let's have a recap. Like, it start off with how you get comfortable in directing people, and you know, to break out of your own shell. That comes from photographing the people that is close to you first, and it actually allows you to have a better communication with people, because they make you feel comfortable. And no matter how much you screw up, or you kind of like pause and chuck, like, oh, I'm not sure how am I gonna approach people. So family and friends are there eventually to help you every step of the way before you start photographing strangers. And then so that's what happened, from family weddings to humanitarian, you know, telling people's greater stories and the not so great stories. And then it comes to sports, where knowing that everything is beyond your control, because everything moves so fast. Yeah. So this is a shot of Yiwen. She's a squash player, and she's gearing up for SEA Games. And the thing is about this shot is, like, after I photographed her, and it was for Taylor College, because she studied in Taylor, so Taylor's wanted to celebrate their students. So after she was there at the SEA Games, like, so there's a lot of stories behind, and it also makes you have it's sort of like a relationship with your subject. That what I know her story is that this is her story, that she went to SEA Games, she won silver medal, and I think I'm not sure, is it the day or 2 days after, the dad passed away. So she have to fly back from Manila to be with the dad. Yeah. And this is Jessica from Singapore. She was practicing. She was actually not practicing. She was warming up. So I think as photographer, this shot actually taught me to be respectful in terms of you want to get that shot, but at the same time you want to be respectful to your subject. You want to give them some space during their warm up, especially going to one of the biggest competitions. So this is SEA Games 2017. And in the meantime, also, speaking of photography, also knowing your gears as well. For me, this one is actually, I use a zoom lens. So it gives it works both ways, in terms of that you get to have a clear shot of your subject. In the meantime, not to intrude them as well.
You know, as you speak of intrusion, I always thought of, like, how do we view the privacy of the subject, like, depending on different cultures.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I tend to photograph, like, even when I'm traveling. I guess everyone does. So how could we be as respectful as possible while still being able to try to do what we want to do, capturing moments?
I think I can answer this in two ways. When it comes to assignment, like, for me, when I have to shoot daily lives, I just have to get it done. So speed plays a huge role. And when it comes to just leisure, especially when you go to the States, right? When you photograph someone, they would just, like, some of them will, like, if they are not okay, they will make a scene right there. So let's say when you photograph someone's kid, or when you photograph something else, when, you know, sometimes let's say I want to photograph May in the public, and I don't know me. But just so happened when I photograph and we locked eye, I think it's best you just smile or nod your head. It's like a courteous acknowledgement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It kind of intrigues me when I kind of read up like street photography, and people be like, this camera comes with a silent shutter, electronic shutter, and then like you can just be as discreet as possible as compared to lugging around a big DSLR. So that's where you can kind of capture your moment. So that's just gear talk. So whenever I see those kind of tips, those are useful tips, but at the same time, it kind of like that question bugged me. Like, is it right to do so? It's a lot of confusion and dilemma, especially when now you're so upfront with like different subjects. So I can see that you're dealing with so many different subjects, and there are some that are meant for you to photo shoot, some documenting, and some like there are many scenarios that we're looking at.
I think one thing is about common sense plays a huge role. Common sense being a decent human being, like I said previously, you are a decent human being first. You're a good person first before you're a photographer. Like sometimes,
Correct,
yes,
yes.
I do want to get that. I do want to get that shot, but in times it's just not the right place, not the right time. And I would say preparation as well.
What sort of
preparation? Research. I think research. Or I think one click of a button, all the source you can get off is there. Or any of you, if you guys have any scenario question, you can ask me. I will try my best to answer as well. Like for example, sorry, yes,
I have a question. Sorry. If let's say we're going back to the scenario you were saying, if you take a shot of a stranger and you lock eyes to that person and then you give a courteous nod, right? Is it common sense or is it polite or is it nice to offer to send that picture to them? Like DM them the photo. Hey, I got a good shot of you. Would you like it? Just
if they ask, like sometimes if I shot them for like assignments, like I just purely do it for work or just for fun. If they didn't ask, and if I nod my head like hey, I acknowledge you. If they didn't do anything, they just walk past, then I'll just let it be. And sometimes it is their right to actually walk up to you because you photograph them or they think they photograph you. And I believe in every way it's their right. It's like, you just take my photo. Then instead of go like, I think also about playing different emotions as well. And you can go, and if you do take a photo, you say, oh yes, you can give me your email right now, I'll send it to you. So that's the first thing that you let people, not say let people go, you make people feel good. It's like, oh, your smile was so nice, or like, oh, this is the moment. Even though your photo, if you think that at the time your photo is just okay, but you're like, oh, I got a shot of you, and you can see their face. You can see their face change.
You gotta diffuse that, right?
Yeah, you gotta diffuse that. Or even if they shoot their kids, I understand that a lot of parents, they are very protective of their kids, and just upfront to them, it's just like, oh, I just photograph for street photography. Like I would like to share with you. Yeah. So most of the time they will be fine. Yeah.
Right. Got it. Thanks.
Yeah. So one thing about photography is about anticipation as well. Like for this photo in particular, that the federation asked me to they wanted candid shot of teammates, and I know that, and it's about understanding, right? So at that point, I already know who are their teammates, and this is during the heat, meaning during the heat, like they call it the short track speed skating heat, when they are tying their shoes, getting ready with their gloves before going to the ice. And then I think 6 seconds before them going, they give each other the hug. Yeah. So, and another one of this shot that I really like is a ritual of a athlete. Sometimes when you watch those Olympic videos, or like Usain Bolt, every time before his 100-meter run, he will look up. So it's about understanding that subject as well. That what will they do at the split of a second? Like this one is just 1 second gone. So it took me quite a while to actually know my subjects. And yeah, so during when they're practicing, or you have an opportunity to photograph them, so I would not immediately take my camera and photograph. I would just like stand there and observe what kind of person they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what he did was, he was before during his name was called, you have to take your position. So it's that 1 second he actually did his ritual. He prayed and he put it down. That's it. It's more like a good luck thing to him, that the hard work leading up to that competition is there already. He did all the hard work. Now it's just letting the hard work take and universe take its course.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So if he screw up, he screw up. Yeah. Oh, when it comes to photography as well, given that with an architecture background, and I was fortunate enough also, like what Leonard said just now, I used to be a national figure skater. So with that two knowledge that I obtained, when it comes to international competition, I'll go a day earlier to recce the place to study the floor plan. Yeah, to study the floor plan, meaning that not every day I'll be in the same position, because in the international world stage, the organizer wanted to be fair. So every day we have a draw for photographer. We have to draw, like today, you draw a good number, so you stand at the best spot, or you get to choose the best spot. So I like to study the floor plan as to like, where's the judges, where's the skaters, where are the coaches, and where is the most easy access to the bathroom and to canteen. Yeah. So this, because it may seem like really funny, but these little, yeah, it is, but
logistics, right?
Yeah, logistics. These little things help and make your life better, because you also have to know that you're carrying 15 kg a day. Or even though if you're not carrying 15 kg a day, let's say you're a spectator, you do not want to miss, when you're in a concert, you do not want to miss a moment, or you wanted to go for a quick toilet without like queuing up. So I would think these are the little things that could help you in life as well. So like I say, these are the things that like really like a linkage to make your life better, to like logistic to make your life better, to execute better. Yeah. And also photography also tells you that when will the moment end. A lot of people thought that like it's like something like movies, when the credits start rolling, everybody just jow, and then they know that actually there's like a sub credit behind. So this is what I would like to think, that every time when the moment ended, I will not stop until the athlete leave the ice ring. Because once the music stopped, about figure skating, they do skate with music. So once the music stopped, normally I can see a lot of photographers. The moment the music stopped, and they just start put their memory card to the camera, to the computer, and start filing. But sometimes you just need to wait like maybe 1 minute or a few seconds longer just to capture the emotional part of it.
There are two questions I'd like to ask here. One is in regards to the expression that I see in most of their faces. Is that something that it's embodied within skaters, that it's part of the performance that will potentially lead you to a better overall in terms of experience?
I think, definitely experience and observation, I would say. Where you're standing plays a huge role as well. And look beyond just the photo, meaning that, like for this, I know that this is, his name is Nguyen, I think. Yeah, Nguyen from Canada. So I knew he was Canadian, even when his name called. So so that time, it's about thinking fast at the spot also. So that time I was like, okay, you know what? I actually wanted to get the audience shot, but not so much focus on that. It's just when the split second when he turned back, it's like, oh, that's the Canadian flag right there. So like I say, really, when it comes to photography, you can really document someone's most glorious moment, and then someone's failure as well. And someone's victory, like this shot is actually, I was it was crammed by like, I think at least six people, six guys. And this is Alex from Canada. She just won her luge competition, and that's where I actually ran to this scene, because I knowing that while I was running, the husband on the other side was running as well, running to her, and I knew that he was running to her because obviously the Canadian cap. So we're like, okay, he's going to her, even because if I don't know who are they, because I would just so happen I'm also very new to the sport. For this is a luge, it's like bobsled skeletons. So I can't. Sometimes you just have to start, kind of trust your instincts as well. It's like, oh, something might be like it's possible to happen. So yeah. And for this shot, it might be blurred, but I feel like the context there is strong in terms of like the meaning is that this is a China team. Obviously, they're not happy they get second, as opposed to the Germany team. They won. Because their marks were really close, and then the girl cried. Her name is Wen Jing. The girl cried because during their program she failed, and he did not. So she felt like she bring the team down. So I think when it comes to photography, or it comes to a creative aspect in your line of work, collaboration is always welcome. When I say collaboration, always welcome, meaning that, you know, try to venture to something that you normally don't do as well. So for me, when it comes to photography, I know that I don't shoot fashion a lot. Yeah, when it comes to, as I was saying, when it comes to collaboration, as we come towards, you know, once you're familiar, earlier on we were talking about, you know, explore different things, a journey of one thing to another. And when to a point that when you hit a plateau of you getting familiar with things, that's where personally you should think of exploring other stuff. So from here on is about collaboration, or collaborating, like shooting fashion. And this is shooting Kuala Lumpur Fashion Week with this team from All It's Amazing. And some things, you know, I try to apply the humanitarian kind of aspect into fashion, the behind the scenes. And then the next thing, you know, this is what I see. But the beauty of designs also is that when design come in, or other people collaborating with other people, this is what they see. So this is what the editor see. He thinks that, oh, it should be cropped more and to the side a bit, and then to add text behind as well. So sometimes this really solidifies that sometimes, even though, let's say, Leo, you and I work together, the things I see and the things you see are different. Hari Raya, Selamat Hari Raya, guys. I heard.
You all hear it? That's good. I don't really hear yours.
All right. So for this, you know, we are in Malaysia, right? So this photo also, in my opinion, it tells a really strong message, meaning that these ladies are all in doodles. And then there's the model right there. So it's about a little bit about the cultural differences as well. Yeah. This is and this is like behind the scenes, lah. Yeah. All right. I think that's about it, lah.
And just now I saw you have WPM. I think is that something that you mentioned to me previously about one of this initiative that you're kind of looking into during MCO?
Yeah, because previously we were like chatting, you know, during MCO. Yeah, I think a lot of us been chatting like, oh, what have you been doing MCO? And we have this kind of like standard through social media. Like, I'm not sure do you guys feel that way in times like we have this standard of, or during MCO, we have to be productive.
Of course.
If you're not productive, then, you know.
That's why we're all here. That's part of the reason why we're all here. I think everyone has their way of reaching out. And would you like to share like what's this that you've initiated?
So personally, speaking of reaching out, right? Personally, I do want to reach out as well, because we are obviously on a daily basis we are conformed by these four walls, and we do want to, and I think social media, our computer, our phone is our only window to see what's outside. You know, like when you're grounded at home and you look out the window, like all the kids are playing outside. So that's what our phone, our technology gadgets are like that for us now. So this is WPM, which is Women Photographer Malaysia. Is basically a initiation that me and a few co-founders, a few female photographers, which are co-founders, that founded. So it's a community. We basically wanted to create a community to empower women, whether they are creatives or they are filmmakers, videographers, photographers, that we can gather and share ideas, that support can be given as well. So it doesn't matter whether, like, maybe some of you ladies here today, or even guys as well, because social media, we put it on Instagram, which is public for all. We wanted to open to every female out there, in particular, because we feel like first we want to provide a safe space. And that being said, that provide a safe space, meaning that as a female photographer, I personally felt like it's quite a challenge in a male-dominant industry. Yeah.
What are like the challenges? Like, would you point out perhaps some of them that we do not know of?
I think for me, I can speak for all females, but in my line of work, especially when it comes to sports, is, I think the weight significancy is one thing. Yeah, being like carry 12 to 15 kg every day. And then maybe for others, I think it's just something that is not practiced right throughout the time. Even though I know that wedding photography, there's some shade of light there. So this is hopefully a space of like a lot of women can ask questions as well. Like it could be like sometimes when I first started out in photography, I have so much question, and I really hope that WPM is the answer and it's the guidance to anyone, whether you're amateur, you're beginner, and you're enthusiast, you're professional. It doesn't matter. There's no like a certain hierarchy or classification right there. So we are all here to learn. Yeah.
Is there something similar of this sort of movement in if you put gender aside? Is there a similar movement of such in Malaysia? And how could you see this sort of growing to the next level? This sort of community.
This sort of community going to the next level.
Like what kind of engagement you're looking at?
I think we're looking at like penetrating into college, university, and workshop as well, and things that, you know, sometimes I think one thing of practice, it was like highly practiced in Asia, that everybody was so paise. Everybody was so like embarrassed, like even when it comes to classes in a lecture hall or in a high school class, that lecturer will ask, like teacher will ask like, hey, do any of you guys have question? Nobody raised up their hand. Then after the class dismissed, you will find like a few people went up to the teacher. So I think the beauty of social media nowadays, that it could be a really macro aspect thing, it could macro aspect and public thing, and it could be a very micro and private thing as well. So either it could be a discussion on the comment section that it could put at the forefront that everybody can see, or people can DM us to ask for questions. So what we are looking here is perhaps in future we can have a mentor and mentee program. Like let's say if you want to learn something, we can hook you up to the right people, I would say.
That's great. I mean, like, this totally like something that we could do in our design field as well, regardless of like whether it's photography or any creative field. The mentor mentee thing, it's something that is like a lost art, I feel.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure why is there a lack of it, because for this, definitely, I'm not really like a super impulsive feminist, but I just feel like maybe there's someone out there who started off just like me maybe 3 years ago, and what I've been through is not pleasant now when it comes. I'm not gonna share so much about it, but
Mm.
I have actually came across being some sort like verbally harassed or mistreated in the work field when it comes to photography. And I think that, you know, every time when there's bad things happen to you, there's also good things can be come out of it.
Mm.
So what I learned, even though it's just a short span of 3 years, I feel like knowledge, like with so nuggets of knowledge is very important. So where these girls or even guys, if they want to join, it's fine. Like a lot of people have been asking like, oh, so will the workshop be just female? We're like, no, the workshop can actually be for guys, but we do want to split it into two sections, because I think the first thing is we want to be safe as well. We want to encourage some female and let them gain confidence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then workshop, in terms of speakers, now we are looking at male speakers as well, because we do not want to have like a gender thing there.
Mm-hmm. What kind of
And
workshop are you looking at?
Workshop, it could be designs as well. It could be branding, so that to boost the photographers up. Mm.
I like that. I could see things
Yeah.
could start to roll somewhere if we could expand this further to other fields.
Yeah. And even it could be like, let's say your architecture studio, if you need someone to come in for photography sharing, and that would be great as well.
And like,
It's more
I
of
think I
knowledge
started
sharing.
this conversation with noticing there are a lot of architecture students who are very good photographers as well. And you know, when we were studying, everyone seemed to have like a DSLR or whatnot, a small mirrorless.
Yep.
That they take great photos. So I feel that there is a niche that passion could be turned into more than just passion. I think.
Yeah.
It just needs some culture nurturing, I guess.
Yeah. And I think that students nowadays also that, yes, I have seen that during my time they have like DSLR cameras or even phone cameras now to, you know, snap all the way during site visit. But it's also giving them or equip all of us or the community or you guys of like, what are you gonna do with it with those photos after your site visit? So which kind of portion can be used? Which kind of photos can be used? Or just you can chuck it away, or which kind of photos that is appropriate that, you know, you can save it and then use it for your presentation. So that's an addition valuable input as well. So for me, coming as a person with architecture and design background, so this is also some sort of like, okay, you want to start an initiation, you know, ideas is there, but with the limitation you have, scratch that. I don't think it's limitation, but with what you have, just use it. So for me, it's like when it comes to design, we have an idea, which is WPM, but also we need to attract people as well. So for me, I am no graphic designer, but these are the only thing I can do and try my best to bring to bring this idea come to life. So we were saying that, oh, do we want like more like a professional kind of approach, or a playful kind of approach, or really a feminine, delicate kind of approach? So personally, I really like this one, because the first thing I would think like, oh, wouldn't it be nice if it's embroidered on, you know, canvas tote bags or t-shirts, you know, WPM right there.
Or leather straps.
Yeah. Oh yeah, or leather. You see, this is where ideas come to life. I never thought about that.
I think we should bring someone, a leather craftsman here and have a word.
Yeah.
Tight goods, right?
Yeah, tight goods. So I think eventually we settled out with this because we wanted a certain people, like a group of people, which is the veteran in the photography industry, to take us seriously. So I mean, everybody have different ideas, obviously, but this is what the approach we are going, the idea we are going.
Right, cool.
So through design, obviously, design gives you a different mood and set and tone as well. So just bear in mind, 3 of us did not hire a designer through this time, because we don't want to spend any resources on things that, you know, we couldn't at this time. So this is really just us doing this. providing input. Yeah. So slowly we feel like matching this and matching this. Slowly we really like this one. Yeah. And then it becomes this. Yeah.
Great.
So the next is color scheme as well. Color scheme plays a huge role. Yeah.
It's crazy like how much we could do with the limited skills, or rather we could call ourselves jack of all trades, right?
Yeah.
There's so many things that we could explore, and that itself you are running people out of business lah. You don't need to hire anyone to do.
Yeah. So I think it's just trial and explore as well.
Yeah.
So from there, that's why I say that even to a point, I actually think that it's not pursuing or not continuing practicing architecture is some sort of like a sin, or like what typical parents say is a waste. But I don't think so. Leading up to this, that everything you do is not in vain. You learn this, then maybe at that point of time, that season, that it doesn't apply for you, but it's okay. At least you learn something about it. Then further a few months down the line, you actually can see that, hey, this actually works. This actually can be adaptable in my life. So yeah, hold on. Oh yeah, Q&A.
So that's all of it.
Yeah, that's pretty much all. That's
Cool.
pretty much all of it.
Thank you so much for sharing. I was like a lot of amazing stuff, a lot of juice, guys. That's a lot of juice.
I
So
hope you guys don't feel like I'm stressing.
no, I think this is where they will barge you with questions right now. So okay, officially we kind of like sort of end this here, but we'll keep it running with Q&A and hangout session, say till like another hour, 11:30.